So I'm Nia Landon. I go to Florida State University, and here in Tallahassee, Florida State sits in promise zones. And so in promise zones, they are people of color, like communities, poorer communities, and literally FSU sits in the middle of one. And if you cross the street here on Tennessee Street, which is one of the main streets, you're in Frenchtown, which is an historically black community, mainly a poorer community. And mind you, there's another university here in Tallahassee called Florida A&M, and also Tallahassee Community College, and those universities sit in promise zones except for FSU. Like, we sit outside of the promise zones, and there's College Town, which is like a higher class, like nice restaurant center, and you cross the street and you're in a poor community or whatnot. And so FSU sits in the middle of that and is gentrification at its finest.
So tell me about this dorm extractive industry. What are they planning?
So it's mostly like apartments around here in Tallahassee that are being built in these communities. And so these apartments cost probably $900 a month, sort of say. And for college students, that's a lot. And so when they're building these apartments in these neighborhoods, you're running people out of their communities. A lot of these people in like Frenchtown cannot afford to live in the cost of living in Tallahassee because FSU is building and rebranding the city of Tallahassee for college kids who don't even reside in Tallahassee. They're only here for 9 months, and then they leave and go back to their town, while there's residents of Tallahassee struggling and still dealing with the horrors of gentrification.
Wow. Last question, where the heck is this promised land, or whatever you call it?
So
Who came up with that?
So it was actually the former mayor, Andrew Gillum. So he had a program it was Andrew Gillum who came up with the program about promise zones. And so with that, he started this program where like kids who are in lower socioeconomic status, that they can like get an internship during the summer or like just work to like build up the community. And so if you look at a map online, the promise zones, it's like literally around Florida State University. So we sit in it, but yet Florida State is not highlighted as a promise zone. And so promise zones, basically like the goal is to rebuild the community and, make sure that the residents in those communities have access to food, because it's a major food desert in Tallahassee. Living in Frenchtown, it probably takes you 15 minutes to get to a Walmart. Their grocery store are corner stores. And so, mind you, here at Florida State, it's easy for us to go to like a Greenwise, which sells healthy foods and is very expensive. But then there's people in other communities who sometimes don't have transportation to get to food access or whatnot. And even the mall is like 20 minutes away from them, or just any types of attractions. They're all accessible to college students who don't even reside in Tallahassee most of the time.
What do you think about what was his name? Andrew Gillman? Yeah.
Adopted the program.
So what do you think about him?
What do I think about Andrew Gillum? I'm sad that he lost. Very sad, but I know he's doing like really good things, and I've heard he's done really good things in Tallahassee. This is only my first year living in Tallahassee, but from what I know, and then I was on his campaign trail. I canvassed with him and all of that, and so definitely the creation of promise zones and rebuilding that, and also he had the summer program for young black men to have access to jobs during the summer and all of that. I think that was a great program to definitely mold and socially mobilize people of color and of lower socioeconomic status.
How do you feel though about, as a young woman of color student yourself, how do you feel about the hypocrisy of, on one hand, someone like Andrew Gillum creating these promise zones and then them being used by developers as just another way to get rid of folks and maybe, our own folks, right? How do you feel about that? Where's that land you?
Definitely, it keeps me in this gray space, because as a student, I come here, as a woman of color, I come here, to get an education, to mobilize, to go beyond that generational curse that they say that people of color have. And so it's kind of disheartening, and it makes you understand dang, this is the world that we live in, and that I need to do better to actively enact social change, sort of say. And just learning, being in college and learning through other people's experiences, my family experiences, I understand the hypocrisy of the institutions that we live in and how oppressive, classist, and racist it is. And so definitely it just motivates me to work harder for social change and all that. Yeah.
You heard it first, Tallahassee. All right.